The sun bled gold across the limestone peaks. It illuminated the grand pyramids of Tikal. These monuments, crafted by human hands, once scraped the sky. They stood proud, a testament to a mighty civilization. But a new ruler was stirring. The jungle, ancient and relentless, began its slow siege. Its emerald tendrils crept forward. They were like the patient fingers of time itself. The distant thrum of ceremonial drums grew fainter. A different rhythm, the rustle of leaves, started to dominate the air. Great stone blocks, once perfectly fitted, felt the insistent pressure. Tiny seeds, carried by the wind, found purchase in crevices. Roots, slender at first, grew thick and strong. They pried apart the sacred masonry. The jungle did not hurry. It had all the time in the world. The vibrant murals depicting gods and kings began to fade under a blanket of moss. The once clear plazas were now dappled with encroaching shadows. The air, once filled with the scent of copal incense, now carried the damp fragrance of decay and rebirth. The sounds of the city died away, the chatter of marketplaces, the cries of vendors, the laughter of children, all silenced. Only the call of the howler monkey and the jaguar's distant roar remained. The great causeways, once bustling with processions, became green tunnels. Nature, with its quiet power, was reclaiming its dominion. The air was thick with an unspoken sorrow. The stone faces of carved deities seemed to watch, impassive, as the wilderness advanced. This was not a battle of equals, but a slow, inevitable surrender. Temple 4, the tallest structure, once a beacon visible for miles, began its slow submission. Its steep stairways, climbed by priests in elaborate feathered headdresses, were now treacherous with growth. From its summit, where astronomers once charted the heavens, one could see an endless sea of green. The city's heart, once beating with human life, was being gently, inexorably smothered. The golden light of each setting sun seemed to mourn the fading glory. The majesty was still there, but it was a majesty surrendering to the wild. Beneath the grandeur, deep within the royal courts, discontent festered. The noble houses, once united in purpose, began to fracture. Ambition, like a poisonous vine, wrapped around the hearts of powerful lords. They eyed the throne of the Ahau, the divine king, with increasing envy. Secret alliances were forged in shadowed chambers. Whispers of rebellion grew louder than the ceremonial chants. The unity that had built Tikal was slowly unraveling. The distant drums now seemed to carry a more urgent, more unsettled beat. The land itself seemed to mirror the growing unrest. Perhaps the rains failed too often. Perhaps the soil, overworked for centuries to feed the teeming city, grew barren. The common people, the farmers and artisans, felt the strain. Their tributes grew heavier, yet the granaries were not always full. Sickness may have spread through the crowded living quarters. The gods, once seemingly benevolent, appeared to turn a deaf ear to the desperate pleas and elaborate sacrifices. The foundations of society were trembling, stressed by unseen forces. The authority of the Ahau, once absolute, began to wane. His connection to the divine realm, the source of his power, seemed to weaken. Rituals, performed with meticulous care, perhaps failed to bring the expected bounty. Stelae, carved to commemorate victories and royal lineages, might have recorded fewer triumphs. The common folk observing these signs may have doubted. Their faith, the bedrock of the king's rule, started to erode. This internal decay was far more dangerous than any external enemy. Rival city-states, sensing Tikal's weakness, may have grown bolder. Skirmishes on the borders could have escalated into larger conflicts. Or perhaps the strife was purely internal, a civil war tearing the kingdom apart from within. The intricate network of alliances and tribute that held the region together began to snap, link by painful link. The golden age was dimming, not from a sudden blow, but from 1,000 internal cuts. The once mighty jaguar was weakening, its own claws turning inward. The abandonment was not a single cataclysmic event. There was no Pompeii-like devastation. Instead, it was a slow exodus, a gradual emptying. Families packed what little they could carry. They looked back one last time at their stone homes, their familiar plazas. The reasons remain shrouded in mystery, debated by scholars for centuries. Was it war, famine, or a devastating drought? Or did the people simply lose faith in their rulers, in their gods, and walk away? The silence they left behind was profound. The great plazas, once thronging with thousands, fell quiet. The marketplaces, usually vibrant with the exchange of goods, jade, obsidian, brilliant macaw feathers, stood deserted. Cooking fires in humble homes grew cold, never to be lit again. Partially woven textiles were left on looms. Unfired pottery sat in dusty workshops. It was as if the city held its breath, waiting for a return that would never come. The spirits of the ancestors, usually honored with offerings, were left unattended. The distant drums had ceased entirely. This was not a retreat from a conquering army. There were few signs of widespread destruction from battle. Instead, it felt like a collective decision, a quiet surrender to an unbearable fate. Perhaps a prophecy foretold the city's end, or maybe the burden of sustaining such a complex society in a fragile environment simply became too great. The whispers of the jungle grew louder, filling the void left by human voices. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a funereal perfume. The mystery of Tikal's fall is its most haunting feature. Why would a people abandon such a magnificent creation? Their pyramids still reached for the heavens. Their reservoirs still held water, albeit less. The knowledge of their astronomers, their mathematicians, their artists seemed to vanish with them. The jungle became the sole inheritor of their legacy, its green canopy a shroud over a lost world. The stones remained, silent witnesses to a grand drama whose final act was a profound, enigmatic emptiness. Before the silence, Tikal pulsed with life. Imagine the towering pyramids not as ruins, but as vibrant centers of power and faith. Temple 1 and Temple 2 faced each other across the Great Plaza. Their limestone surfaces were perhaps painted in rich reds and blues. Stelae, stone monuments, stood like sentinels. They were covered in intricate carvings telling stories of kings, gods, and cosmic events. Corbelled arches, a hallmark of Mayan design, created soaring interior spaces within palaces and temples. The city was a marvel of engineering and artistry. The people of Tikal wore clothing woven from cotton. Commoners might wear simple loincloths and undecorated tunics. Nobles and priests, however, adorned themselves lavishly. They wore intricate hupils, elaborate headdresses of quetzal feathers, and heavy jade jewelry. Jade necklaces, ear spools, and pectorals signified status and spiritual power. Their bodies were often painted and sometimes ritually scarred. The rulers appeared as living embodiments of the gods, their attire a dazzling display meant to inspire awe and obedience. Ritual was the lifeblood of Tikal. Priests, guided by complex calendars, performed ceremonies to appease the gods and ensure cosmic order. Bloodletting, where nobles and kings offered their own sacred blood, was a vital practice. The famous Mayan bull game, played in dedicated courts, was more than sport. It was a reenactment of cosmic battles, sometimes ending in sacrifice. From high temple platforms, astronomers meticulously tracked the movements of Venus and the stars, their knowledge essential for agriculture and prophecy. The air often carried the scent of burning copal incense. Daily life revolved around ancient rhythms. Farmers cultivated maize, beans, and squash in fields cleared from the jungle. Women wove intricate textiles on backstrap looms, their patterns rich with symbolic meaning. Potters crafted beautiful ceramics both for daily use and for ritual purposes. Scribes painted hieroglyphs onto codices made of fig bark, recording histories and sacred knowledge. Markets buzzed with trade, bringing goods from distant lands. Children played in the courtyards, their laughter echoing against the stone walls, unaware of the silence that would one day fall.